film opens with Nick and his son at a gas station. While Nick is pumping gas, his son goes inside to get drinks. Suddenly, gangsters arrive and start shooting inside the store. Among them, a young man looks terrified. It turns out he has come for his first kill. His partner says, "What are you thinking? Just kill him." Nick's son begs, "No, please don't kill me." But the young man's gang pressures him so much that he shoots Nick's son, killing him on the spot. Nick attacks his son's killer and catches him to get him arrested, but the killer fights back. Nick manages to pull off his mask and sees his face. Before Nick can do anything, the killer breaks free and runs away. Nick doesn't chase him because he has no time. He rushes his son to the hospital, but it is too late. His son is dead. This loss completely destroys him. Soon, it is revealed that the police have caught the killer. They call Nick to the police station to identify him. Nick recognizes the killer immediately. The trial begins a few days later. Nick hopes that the killer will get the harshest punishment, but his lawyer explains that the man will only get 3 to 5 years in prison. This is because it wasn't a planned murder. The maximum penalty for this is just a short prison sentence. Nick is shocked and asks the lawyer, "How is this possible? I saw him kill my son. I am a witness." The lawyer says, "Unfortunately, your son had no history with that boy. The gang has an initiation rule where members must kill someone to join, and that night, they chose your son." The lawyer tells him, "We can fight this case for 10 years. You can try your best to get a severe sentence, but he will never get the death penalty." The lawyer advises him that it's best to tell the judge exactly what he saw. This way, the judge might give the killer the maximum sentence possible. But hearing this, Nick is deeply angry. The punishment for his son's murder can't be just 3 years. Nick gets up and leaves. The day of the trial arrives. The killer is brought into the courtroom. When the judge asks Nick if this is the killer, Nick surprisingly replies, "No." He has a different plan in mind. The killer smiles at Nick as if he has won the case. The judge releases the killer, and all his gang members come to pick him up. Since he proved his loyalty to the gang, they take him out to celebrate. Nick stands at a distance, watching them intently, as if plotting revenge against them. As they drive off, Nick follows them. He watches the gang leader drop the killer off at a house. The leader gives him money and then leaves. After seeing the address, Nick quickly goes home and searches for a weapon. He grabs a knife, returns to the apartment, and attacks his son's killer. The young man desperately tries to defend himself, but Nick stabs him in the stomach, killing him. Only after the boy dies does Nick realize his grave mistake. He just committed the same crime that took his son's life. He panics and runs away from the scene. To hide the evidence, he throws the murder weapon into the river. When a broken Nick returns home, his wife and younger son are worried about his condition. But Nick doesn't tell them what he just did. He keeps his crime a secret. He quietly goes into the bathroom, stands under the shower, and cries not just out of grief for his son, but because his humanity died the moment he took a life. The next day, we see Billy, the gang leader. He is furious when he learns that his gang member was killed. He is now angry at the loss of his brother. He looks at the newspaper, where a large article is printed about the death of Nick's son. He angrily tells his gang, "This is how the world works. If they treat us like garbage, we will show them no mercy." When a rich man's son dies, entire newspaper articles are written. But when one of us dies, only a single line is written. No matter what, he is determined to avenge his brother. Meanwhile, the police inform Nick that his son's killer was murdered. The police suspect a rival gang did it, and they have no idea that Nick is the real killer. Nick's colleague tells him, "Finally, your son got justice." This is exactly what Nick wanted to hear. Nick feels he did the right thing. The guilt he felt yesterday about killing a man vanishes. Back at the gang's hideout, we see Billy. He is determined to track down his brother's killer. He talks to the neighbors near the apartment and asks if anyone saw something. A witness says she saw a man matching Nick's description. Billy is now convinced that Nick killed his brother. That is why they start hunting Nick. While walking in the city, Nick senses someone is following him. Before a gangster can pull out his gun, Nick smashes his briefcase into the man's hand, knocking the gun away. Nick runs for his life, but the rest of the gang chases him. As he runs, the gangsters shoot at him. Luckily, Nick isn't hit. To escape, he drops his belongings and runs into a building. But the gangsters follow him inside. He runs into a parking garage and triggers the car alarms, hoping to attract police or security guards. But no one comes. He runs to the top floor of the garage, and a gangster catches up and tries to kill him. To save himself, Nick fights back and throws the man into a car. During the struggle, the car starts rolling forward toward the edge. Nick jumps out in time, but the gangster is trapped inside and dies when the car falls off the roof. Taking advantage, Nick escapes from the rest of Billy's men. He barely survives one danger when another crisis hits. His wife calls to say their younger son hasn't returned from school. He panics. But then he realizes his son must have gone to the gas station where his brother died. His guess is right. His son is there, mourning his brother, and refuses to leave. Out of fear and anger, Nick yells at him. The boy thinks Nick is just being mean, but Nick knows he is protecting his son from a deadly threat. Meanwhile, we see the gangsters who chased Nick earlier. When Nick dropped his briefcase, the gang found his wallet inside. Now, the gangsters have all of Nick's personal information, including his family photo. Looking at the picture, the gang decides to target Nick's family to get their revenge. Billy sends a gang member to Nick's office. Bypassing security, the man approaches Nick and hands him his briefcase. It is empty, except for his family photo. However, someone has drawn a cross over everyone's face. The gangster threatens Nick and leaves. He warns Nick that messing with the gang was a huge mistake, and now he will pay. Because of this threat at his workplace, Nick is terrified. He finds a phone number written on the back of the photo. When Nick calls it, Billy answers. Billy threatens to kill his entire family. Nick warns him, "If you even touch my family, I will do to you what I did to your partner." Billy replies, "The person you killed was not just my partner. He was my little brother." Hearing this, Nick is filled with dread. He hangs up, grabs his things, and rushes out. He finally understands that this war is deeply personal. Billy lost his brother, and Nick lost his son. Nick took revenge by killing Billy's brother, and now Billy wants his own revenge. Nick calls his wife in a panic and says, "Our lives are in danger. Stay inside, lock the doors, and keep an eye on our son. I am coming home right now." When Nick arrives home, the lead detective is waiting for him. She is the same officer investigating his son's murder. She asks Nick, "Why don't you just admit that you killed him? If you think you fooled the police, you are wrong." She knows Nick killed the gang member, but Nick is hesitant to confess in front of his wife, and she looks at him in shock. The officer warns Nick, "If you don't cooperate, you will face terrible consequences. You think you just killed your son's murderer, but you are wrong. He was part of a ruthless gang, and you just started a war." The officer turns to leave. A desperate Nick follows her outside and finally confesses that he killed the boy. He pleads for protection so his family doesn't suffer the same fate as his older son. Hearing this, the officer promises, "We will help you as much as we can. 2 officers will guard your house tonight, but you have to be very careful." Nick's wife, now aware of the terrible truth, breaks down in tears. But instead of blaming him, she comforts him. She says, "You didn't do anything wrong. You were only trying to get justice for our son." Later that night, they try to get some sleep. Suddenly, the sound of a police car horn wakes them up. Nick jumps out of bed. He realizes that if the police are sounding their horn, something is wrong. When he looks out the window, he sees that the people outside are not the police, but the gangsters. The situation is a total nightmare. The gang members have killed the police guards, and now they are breaking into his house. A gangster tries to shoot Nick with a shotgun, but Nick dodges the blast and attacks the man, snatching his weapon. He uses the gun to shoot the attacker and another gang member. But before he can catch his breath, he hears his wife and son screaming. Nick rushes to save them and finds them cornered by Billy. Billy, not scared by Nick's gun, shoots Nick's wife and son right in front of his eyes. Billy wanted Nick to witness this moment. He wanted him to feel the exact same grief he felt when his brother died. Before Nick can react, Billy shoots him too and leaves, thinking they are all dead. But miraculously, Nick survives. When he wakes up, he is in the hospital. He is completely shattered. He thinks his entire family is gone. But then the doctor tells him his younger son is still alive, though in a coma. Seeing his son hooked up to machines breaks Nick's heart. He blames himself and whispers, "Forgive me. I should have let the courts handle it." If he had just accepted the short sentence, the murderer would be in jail, and his family would still be alive. Nick returns to his hospital bed and makes a final decision. He must kill Billy and his gang, because if he doesn't, Billy will never stop. The gang will eventually return to kill his son. Just as he plans his next move, the detective visits his room, surprised he is awake. She tells him, "You are lucky to be alive. Be thankful for that. And please, do not continue this war. If you go after them, you will die. I know you are angry, but getting more blood on your hands won't fix anything." But Nick ignores her warning. He escapes the hospital without being discharged. His condition is still very bad. He has a severe wound, but he ignores his own suffering. The only thing that matters now is finishing the gang and protecting his surviving son. When he returns home, he shaves his head to change his look. He prepares himself for war. Despite his injuries, he pushes through the pain to get ready. At the same time, he figures out a plan to hunt down Billy's gang. He withdraws all of his savings from the bank. He starts tracking down people who know where Billy hides. He finds a shady neighborhood and goes to investigate. He asks a man standing in an alley where he can find Billy. The thugs just mock him. Their insults make Nick snap, and instead of walking away, he attacks them brutally. Nick fights with so much rage that no one can stop him. He then goes to an illegal weapons dealer. He buys heavy firearms and pays the dealer thousands of dollars in cash. The dealer looks at him and asks, "What do you need all these guns for?" Nick doesn't explain, but as he turns around to leave, he hears the dealer cocking a shotgun. Nick turns back and sees the dealer aiming at him. The man says, "Billy is my son, and the boy you killed in that alley was my son too." Hearing this, Nick freezes. He expects the dealer to shoot him right there, but the man lowers his gun and says, "I won't kill you, and I won't stop you from hunting Billy, because I care more about this money than him. But if you try to shoot me, I will blow your head off."